Suze Orman, best-selling author and nationally recognized financial expert, is changing our relationship with money and providing new ways to achieve true wealth.
So let me ask you this. How many of you spend more money on your credit cards than you know you should be spending? Or how many of you haven't started planning for retirement, even though you know that day is coming quite shortly? Or how about a will and a trust? Haven't you all said that you're going to get around to doing it? Have you? No. How come? Think about it. All of us have time to do the things that we love. We make more than enough time for that. We don't do things with our money because we are paralyzed with fear. Fear that we're going to do something wrong. So over the past 18 years, I developed a systematic 9-step approach that I call the 9 steps to financial freedom. And in this next hour, we're going to take a journey into those 9 steps. Now, this approach can essentially be divided into 3 parts. The first part takes you back to your memories of money, your very first memories. And we do this in order to make sense of why we don't do that which we know we should be doing with money today. The second part deals with the laws of money, the must-dos, being responsible to those you love, wills, trusts, looking at your attitude towards your credit card and your retirement plan. And I'm going to tell you about an insurance that I think is probably one of the most important that all of you should have, but yet most of you probably haven't even heard about it yet. In the third part, we're going to look at ways to invest our money. We're going to learn who is the most important person we should trust when it comes to financial advice that we get. And in the end, we're going to go far beyond the realm of money into a wealth that money can't buy. All right, a lot of you are looking, oh, Suze, it's too late. I can't make any money. I can't do this. It's fine. Financial freedom, anybody but me. However, this is what you need to know. It's never too soon to begin. That's true. However, I am telling you, I have seen thousands of people follow this 9-step approach, age 50, 60, 70, and they've emerged with financial freedom. So even though it's never too soon to begin, the truth is it is never too late to start. And here's the key to that. It has to be that what you do, say, and think has to be one. But it's not good enough just to say you want financial freedom unless you think financial freedom can come your way. It's not good enough to say and think that you want financial freedom, but do absolutely nothing about it. So, we're going to learn how to become one with that. But you know, the first step in helping you create a secure financial future is first taking a step back to our past. Now, most of you, when you go to a financial advisor, don't you arrive holding a whole bunch of financial documents with you? You want them to look it over, see what you got going. Well, my clients do that as well. However, that's not what I look at. What I first ask them to do is to create what their first memory for me of money was. Something happened to us when we were very young that is still operating now as we're an adult with our money. And it's that memory that is preventing us from taking the action that we want to take when it comes to our money. Let me give you an example of this. When I was 8 years old, I went to my mom and I said, "Ma, can I have $1? I need to go to the swimming pool with my friends." And she said, "Oh, Susie, honey, we don't have $1 to give you right now, but please don't tell your friends because if you tell them, they're not going to like you anymore." So what did I start to do? I started to go into my father's pockets at night where he kept his money. Sound familiar to any of you? And I started to take out $1 here and there. What do you think I did with that money? Spend it on myself? No. I took that money and started to spend it on my friends, So they would continue to like me, to buy them lollipops, comic books, that Archie comic book that I gave to Leslie so many times I can't tell you. And I realized that I continued to do this for many, many years. Do you know, I was in my 20s and I was still doing this. Not stealing from my father, but stealing from myself in the form of charging money on my credit cards to buy my friends dinners, presents for their birthdays, all kinds of things. And one day I was standing there buying a birthday present for somebody, and I said, Susie, you don't have the money to pay for this. You're still acting like an 8-year-old child when it comes to your money. And I thought, oh my God, that's absolutely true. That's exactly what I'm doing here. Years later, when I became a financial advisor, you want to know something? I realized that all of you, my clients, were doing the exact same thing. So, for instance, let me try this with you. Imagine maybe you're 3, 5 years old, you're crawling around, you find a quarter on the floor, and you put it in your mouth, and your mother looks at you and she says to you, don't touch it, it's dirty. Dirty. Do I think that you're not touching money today because it's still dirty? I not only think it's possible, I am telling you it is probable that that memory is still working, and that is why you don't take the actions that you know you should be taking when it comes to your money. The first exercise that I want you to do when you have time is I want you to go back into your mind and think about the time that money first meant something to you, that you knew it could buy you something. Maybe that lollipop again, maybe a present, anything. Now don't look scared here. It's not like I'm telling all of you that you need to go and get therapy. This isn't about spending $50 an hour for some therapist to say, now what is your first money memory? No. It's really quite simple. I want the first memory that pops into your mind, whether you were 5, 10, or 15 years of age. Maybe for some of you it was that your parents always fought about money. Maybe. Maybe it was that you had a shop at the Salvation Army, but all your friends shopped at Macy's. Or on the other side, maybe it's that you were driven to school in a chauffeur-driven limousine, but yet your friends arrived just in regular cars. Next, I want you to think about what your greatest fear is when it comes to money. What is it? Are you afraid that you might be a bag lady and end up on the street powerless and penniless? Are you afraid that you're never going to be able to buy a house that you want to live in, that's your home, or be able to retire when you really need to? Whatever that fear is for you, I want you to see if there is a connection between your first memory of money and this greatest fear. I've done this with thousands of people now, and I can tell you, if you look at this, you will see and you will make that connection. And once you make that connection, you start to break the chain of it, and you start to be able to propel yourself on into true financial freedom. However, you know, our fears that we have about money are very deep-rooted within us. So in this next step, we're going to learn how to silence those fears and create new truths. You know, back in 1980, when I was first hired as a financial advisor, a stockbroker, I can't begin to tell you how afraid I was. I was petrified. I had been a waitress at a bakery up until that time. So here I find myself in a situation, and I don't know how to act, and I'm so afraid because I don't belong. In fact, I was so afraid that I have to tell you, every day I would get into my 1967 Volvo station wagon, remind you now it's 1980, and I would drive to Taco Bell because that's where I felt comfortable. I would sit there and eat these tacos by myself because I belonged there. I didn't belong with the other financial advisors that were going out in their three-piece suits, eating at these fancy restaurants, because that wasn't my frame. And one day as I sat in Taco Bell in my car, I was thinking, you know what? You are never, ever going to make it here unless you can create a truth to silence your fear. You have got to stop saying to yourself, Susie, that you don't belong, because of course you do. So I did create a new truth for myself. And what I created was this, that I am young, powerful, and successful, producing at least $10,000 a month. That was a good truth. Do you think I believed it? Well, I don't think so. I didn't feel powerful, I didn't feel successful, and $10,000 a month was more than my father made sometimes in an entire year. But I started to do this truth 25 times a day. I would write it. I would scream it. I am young, powerful, and successful. I would sing it. And I have to tell you, within about a year, it became true. Well, I realized that if this could work for me, it could work for my clients as well. So when my clients would come in and they would tell me about their money and their fears, I would have them create a new truth. So what I want all of you to do is an exercise as well in creating your truth. Remember this fear that we had in your head a little bit ago? I want you to create a truth that totally is opposite of that fear. So for instance, if you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I am never going to have enough money. There is never anything I'm going to have. Your new truth then would be something like, I have more than I'll ever need. So when you do this, I want you to create something that's opposite. I want it to be short, one sentence, so that you can repeat it over and over again. I don't want it to be limiting. Remember I said that I'm producing at least $10,000 a month? Hey, if the universe wanted to give me more, why leave it at 10,000? All right? The same is true for you. And I want it to be present tense. So your truth has to be, I have more than I'll ever need, if that's what you choose it to be. Once you've created this truth, I want you to repeat it just like I did, over and over again. Make a commitment to yourselves to do this. Write it, sing it, say it silently. And I can tell you, again, shortly, might be 6 months, might be 2 months for some of you, might be a year, it will start to come true. So, great. Now we're being truthful with ourselves. We know what our fears are. But are we honest with ourselves? That's what we have to know. And in the next step, we're going to see what it takes to become honest. Everybody says they want financial freedom. Don't you say that? Yeah. I want some more money. You say that too, don't you? Well, I have to tell you, it's not about wanting more money. It's about wanting to know more about the money that you already have. When clients come into me and they look at me and they say, Susie, tell me about my money. I say, no, I want you to tell me about your money. I first ask them, all right, how much do you spend every month, month in and month out? How much do you need to live? And they think, oh, well, okay. I make $3,000 a month, and at the end of the month, all my money's gone. So I must spend $3,000 month in and month out. That must be it. Oh, you do that as well. See? You do it that way, don't you? I knew it. However, when we go through all their statements, all their checking accounts, that's not what they spend. Without a shadow of a doubt, I'm telling you, and this will happen for you as well, they spend at least $500 to $1,500 more per month, every month, than they ever had any idea. That's why, at the end of the year, have you ever noticed you think, why haven't I been able to save any money? Where did it all go? Because you don't think about the money that you're going to spend in December for Christmas presents and Hanukkah presents, in June. You don't think about, in June, the money that you're going to spend on a vacation maybe in January. Do you see that? So we're always spending money without thinking about it, and we don't plan for it. So, another exercise for all of you. I want you to go back through the last years of your checkbook, your ATM withdrawals, every statement that you have on your credit cards, all of that. And I want you to total everything that you spend, and this is how I want you to do it. I want you to make separate categories for your money. So let's say you happen to go and you're buying clothes. Everything that you spent on clothes goes in one category. Your vet bills go in another category. Your hair expenses, massages, whatever it is, goes in another. When you've done this, at the end you're going to have all these numbers for all these categories. I want you to total up all those categories. And then I want you to divide by 12. That number that you get is what you need month in and month out coming in. The next thing I want you to do is look at your income. How much income do you have coming in? From interest on your savings accounts, from your salary, Social Security, whatever it may be, that's the money that I want you to total. Then I want you to compare those two. Do you have enough coming in to cover what you have going out? Well, few of you are laughing because chances are you don't. So if you don't, you only have two choices. Either you get another job and start making more money. That's hard since most of us are already working 60 hours a week and can barely pay the money that we have right now or the bills that we have right now. Or secondly, I want you to start to choose how you spend your money that you have now. What do I mean by that? You've just created an entire list of things that you spend your money on. I want you to look at that list and choose which things on those lists are important to you. So for instance, maybe you go to the movies 6 times every month. So great, rather than going 6, choose to only go 4. Or maybe you get your hair cut or things like that. Whatever it is, I want you to choose how you should start spending your money. Now, I am not talking about budgets here. A budget with your money is just like going on a diet with your weight. All right? It's true. Have you ever noticed you go on a diet, you lose 10 pounds, then you gain 20? If you start budgeting with your money, you'll stop spending for a month or 2. You'll be in line. But months 3, 4, and 5, you will make up for it by spending more. So this is about choosing how to spend your money. When you do this, this entire process puts you in control of your finances. And when you're in control, you're now starting to drive towards your own financial freedom. We have just gone over our money memories, connecting them to our fears. We've also looked at how to get honest with yourself. Where do you really stand with your money? When we come back, we're going to look at the must-dos, the laws of money. What we do to attract money to us, what we do to repel it, and how we can become a money magnet. This next step is what I consider one of the most vital steps. Being responsible to those you love. The first law of money is people first, then money. It is not nice when you leave this world, and trust me, every one of us is going to leave those that we love not only in an emotional, chaotic mess, but in a financial one as well. So the first things that I do when my clients come to see me is I look over their paperwork, their will, their trust. Do they have everything in order? And I have to tell you, most of them do not. Or if they do, they don't really even know the difference between what is a will, what is a trust. So I'm going to tell you right now. All right, let's assume that my mom has a house in the state of California valued at about $200,000. And she wants to leave it to me, and she does so via her will. So great, Mom creates a will, and she does that. Says Susie gets her house when she dies. What's the cost of that will? Well, it will be about $100. No big deal. But here's where the problems come in. Let's say my mom dies. The name, the deed, is my mother's, isn't it? It says Ann Orman on her deed. Mom's not alive anymore to sign her deed over to me. So how am I going to get the house in my name? I'm going to have to take her will down to a court. It's called probate court. And I'm going to have a judge sign my mother's name for her. First of all, this whole process will take 6 months to 2 years. No big deal, right? That's quite a long time if you ask me. But secondly, what do you think it's going to cost me simply to have that signature? It's going to cost $10,300. That's the mandatory probate fee in the state of California. Think about that. That is a lot of money. What if I didn't have that $10,300? Guess what would happen, everybody? The court would sell my mother's house in order to get money to be able to pay those fees, because those fees go to the executor, to the probate person known as the lawyer. Was there a different way for Mom to do this? You betcha there was. Mom could have created what's called a revocable living trust. Works very much the same way in terms of setting it up as a will does. You go to see a lawyer, he or she draws it up for you. The costs are a little different, however. The cost for a revocable living trust is about $500 to $1,000. What's the difference, however? It's not going to cost me anything to get this house. Why? Because this is how a revocable living trust works. While Mom is alive, she signs over the deed of her house into the name of the trust. Rather than it saying Ann Orman on her deed, it will now say Ann Orman, trustee for the Ann Orman Living Trust. It's already in there. When Mom dies, it goes directly to me if she names me as her beneficiary in that trust. Does it change what she can do with that house? No. She can sell it anytime she wants. She could refinance it anytime she wants. It doesn't change her property taxes, anything. So there is a tremendous difference between $10,300 and nothing. So for those of you who think you've taken care of your children or those you love by leaving them something via a will, you might want to check this out. Now, it's very important that you know that rules vary from state to state. So for instance, in the state of California, of course you would have a living trust. You'd almost have to be crazy if you didn't. However, in New Jersey, it doesn't make that much sense. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to go into your lawyer's office, and I want you to say, all right, if I were to die today, if my husband and I were to die today, or my partner and I, how much would it cost my children in probate fees, court costs, everything, to inherit everything that I'm going to leave to them? Then I want you to ask, all right, if I set up a revocable living trust, then how much would it cost? Depending on your state, these answers will vary. But whichever one is cheapest, that's the way you go. Now, a lot of you may find that maybe you went to your attorney and you said, I want a revocable living trust. But he said or she said, you don't need one. Please keep in mind who gets those attorney fees if all you have is a will. All right? Now, again, a lot of you may say, I don't particularly care, Susie, how much money my children are going to have to pay when I die. That's their problem, not mine. So let me ask you this question. How many of you own a house in joint tenancy with your partner or spouse, your home? Right? Quite a few of you, don't you? Let me ask you this question. If you were on the way home and you were in a serious car accident and totally incapacitated, would your husband be able to sell your house if he needed to? You don't know the answer to that? The answer is no, he would not. Now, why would he need to sell it? Well, if one of you aren't working anymore and you don't have that income coming in, maybe you can't afford the mortgage payment. Or maybe you live in a 2-story house and you want to take care of somebody and you just need a 1-story house to be able to do so. But you can't sell it. And the reason you can't sell it is that it takes 2 signatures on the deed, if you own it in joint tenancy, to be able to sell this house. And he or you can't sign for it if you're incapacitated. So now what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to go down to the court, have him or her declared incompetent. Oh great, that'll cost you $5,000. And from that point on, you will have a conservatorship assigned to him or her. And every time you make a move with their half of the money, the judge is going to have to approve your motions with that money. You have now committed yourself to what I call a living nightmare. Was there a way around this? There is. In your revocable living trust, forget about the kids, forget about the probate fees, think about yourself. If you simply had a simple paragraph known as an incapacity clause, you could step in and sign immediately for your husband. Your children could step in and sign for both of you if something happened to both of you at once. And it would take care of that altogether. Now again, a lot of you are going to say, but I don't need a trust. You're going to go to the lawyers, you're going to do that comparison, and you're going to see, well, all I really need is a will. And maybe a lot of you think that you can get around this problem by having a power of attorney. What you need to know is if you have a power of attorney that lets you sign for each other, do you know that powers of attorney are null and void the day that an incapacity happens? So if you're going to go that route, rather than getting just a regular power of attorney, it is essential that you get a durable power of attorney that lasts through an incapacity. Remember at the beginning of the show, I talked to you about an insurance that I thought was very important for all of you to have. The name of that insurance is called long-term care insurance. Now, this is not a topic that a lot of people like to talk about, but let me tell you this. 1 out of 3 of you are going to spend some time in a nursing home after the age of 65. And do you know that the average length of stay will be 2.9 years? All right. Did you know that your health insurance will not pay a penny of it? Did you know that? Did you know that Medicare will hardly pay for any of it? Sure, Medicaid or Medi-Cal will pay for it. However, to qualify for those 2 things, you're going to have to be financially destitute. All right? So that's what you need to know about what you already have. Now this is what you need to think about. Do you really have an extra $3,000 per month or $5,000 per month to keep your spouse in a nursing home while you're at home still living, paying your mortgage and doing all those things? Most of you will not. So there's only one person who's going to pay for these expenses, and that's you out of your own pocket, because those other entities are not going to do it. Now, whenever I tell my clients about long-term care insurance, they go, not me. I am not going to end up in a nursing home, or I'm never going to have to use it, Susie. Why would I want to pay for insurance that I'm never going to use? Let me ask you this. Do you ever want to use any of the insurance that you have? I mean, you all have fire insurance, don't you? I mean, none of you are sitting here hoping that your house burns down, are you? But the fact is, only 1 out of 1,200 of you will ever use your fire insurance, but you all pay for it. How about your car insurance? You don't hope you're in an accident, but 1 out of 246 of you will use that insurance. But long-term care insurance, the one insurance that most of you don't want to have, 1 out of 3 of you in your lifetime will end up using it. Let me give you a brief idea how it works. Let's say you were 55 years of age. A Cadillac policy would cost you about $900 a year. In a good policy, the premiums are based on how old you are when you enter it and stay stable that way throughout the entire length of the policy. So if average age into a nursing home is 85, you would be paying $900 a year for those 30 years, or a total of $27,000. Do you know that that's less than what 1 year in a nursing home today would cost you, let alone 30 years from now? So it's something that all of you, I'm serious about this, need to look into. What is the perfect age for you to buy such a policy? between the ages of 54 and 59. Right in there, I've done the calculations many, many times. That's the perfect age. Now, if you're older than that, you should still look into it. However, if you're younger than that, you might want to wait. All right? Because it's not worth the money at that point. What's key to know here, however, is that if you decide to purchase a long-term care policy, don't do it out of fear. Do it out of knowing why you're doing it. And do it knowing that you can afford it for a long time. It will do you no good to buy a policy like this when you're 55, and then when you're 70, find out that you can't afford it anymore, and then you have to drop it. You would have thrown that money away, so you were better off not buying it at all. But this is something that you all truly need to look into. These were just a few of the things that we needed to look at to be responsible to those we love. But you know, sometimes being responsible isn't quite enough. And the next step, we look at being respectful to ourselves and to our money. There's another law about money, and this law goes like this. Respect and power attract money, and disrespect and powerlessness repel it. You see, there's things that we do in our own life that prevent money from coming our way. And money will respond to you just like people do. You know, in your life, when you're feeling powerful, everything's going right, and you go and look at jobs, everybody wants to hire you. Your friends call you up, everybody wants to take you out to dinner and pay for it. You're everybody's best friend when you're feeling powerful and things are going great. But start to get depressed, start to get sad, start to lose that power and become powerless. Have you noticed? Friends don't call anymore. Nobody wants to take you to dinner. And all the job interviews totally dry up. Money responds to you in the exact same way. And there are many things that we do in life that render us powerless when it comes to our money. The number one thing that we do that renders us powerless is when we have credit card debt. All right? When you have debt, credit card debt, you become a prisoner to that debt. Rather than you having control over your money at that point, that debt has control over you. Do you see that? Does that make sense to you? Now, there are fabulous reasons to have credit cards. It's not just everyone to throw away their credit card. That's not what this is about. Now, you can use credit cards to reserve cars for yourselves at airports, to purchase things over the telephone for a variety of reasons, collect airline miles, all kinds of things. So there are many good reasons to have credit cards, but many of us have let that credit card, that plastic money, start to ruin our lives. And that's why 1.3 million people are about to claim bankruptcy. They're about to bite what I call the financial bullet, and we don't want that to happen to anybody anymore. When it comes to debt, we have such shame, don't we? Actually, when it comes to money, we have such hidden shame. Most of us don't ever talk about it. In fact, most of us talk about our sexual affairs with one another more than we do our financial affairs. Isn't that true? Think about this. Imagine yourself going into a cocktail party or a dinner party and announcing to everybody in this room that you have $17,000 of credit card debt. Could you do it? Right? The entire room would fall absolutely silent. Everybody would be horrified, especially those who have more credit card debt than you. Right? They would just go silent. You have to understand that you are far, far more than the negative balance on your credit card statements. Just because you owe money to somebody doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It simply means that you manage money poorly. So the first thing you have to do to start to erase this credit card debt is to face it, to really see it, and start telling your friends about it. Tell your husband or wife or your loved ones or your children or your friends that guess what, Jane? I have $3,000 of credit card debt. She'll tell you she has some back as well that she's been hiding, but start talking about it, because when you talk about it, you take the power out of it. The next thing you have to do is to know how to handle your payments. It is extremely important that when it comes to credit cards that you pay more than the minimum on these credit cards. And let me give you an example of that. Let's say you had an $1,100 credit card debt and an 18% interest rate. Do you know to pay off this $1,100 in full, if all you did was to pay the minimum, it would take you 12 and a half years to do so. And you would have paid a total of $2,480 in interest alone. That's actually very fascinating if you think about that. So next time you go to the stores and you buy something and you know all you can do is afford the minimum, know that you're going to be paying 3 times for that item by the time it's done. Right? Keep that in mind. Let's say, however, you paid just $10 more. That's 35 cents a day. If you just simply spend a little bit more money for this minimum payment, this debt will be retired in 6 years. And you will have only spent $676 in interest, and that's at just $10 a month more. Now, a lot of you also may say to me, but Suze, I don't have an extra $10 a month. Then I'm going to show you a way that you can get not only $10 more a month, but far more than that. I want you to stop spending your change and only spend paper money. What do I mean by that? All right, go into a store. You buy something for $4.50. All right, and you hand the guy a $5 bill, and he gives you 50 cents in change. Put it in your pocket. Next store you go into, you buy some gum for 50 cents. Rather than taking the 50 cents out of your pocket, take out another $1, give it to the person, and get another 50 cents. If you do that, I promise you at the end of the month, you are going to have 30 to 60 extra dollars that you won't have a clue of where that money came from. If you take that money and apply it to the credit card debt, boy, that debt will be retired far quicker. Now, there are some of you out there that are in serious trouble when it comes to credit card debt. And if you are, I want you to know that there's a nonprofit organization that's set up called the Consumer Credit Counseling Service. If you go to them, they'll help you negotiate lower interest rates for you. In many cases, they'll be able to take you from 18% to 0%. So take advantage of them. They're honest, they work with you, and they're throughout the entire country. After you've paid off all your credit card debt, then you need to go on to save for your future. And another way that we're not respectful to ourselves is that we don't save enough for retirement. All right? Whenever I tell people this, they say, Susie, I don't have enough money to pay my bills right now. How do you expect me to put money away for retirement and pay my bills? That's a good point. But I have a better one. If you don't have enough money today to save for retirement and pay those bills, how do you expect to pay those exact same bills 20 or 30 years from now when you no longer have a paycheck coming in? Today you have a paycheck coming in and you can't pay those bills. 20 years from now, you're not going to have a paycheck coming in. What are you going to do? You're not going to be a very happy camper. So what you need to know is that time is of the essence. Let's say that you were 25 years of age and you took simply $100 a month and you put that in a good no-load mutual fund, one without any commissions on it, and you got a great return of, let's say, 12% a year, year in and year out. Do you know that by the time you are 65, that you will have $1 million in this account? It's a lot of money. So let's say you decide to wait just 10 years. You decide you want to go and maybe go to Europe or maybe buy a car with that extra payment or whatever it is. So you don't start putting money away until you're 35. How much do you think you'll have at the age of 65? you'll have only $300,000. 10 years at just $100 a month cost you $700,000 by the time you become 65. Wait another 10 years. Wait till you're 45 to do the exact same thing. At the age of 65, you'll have $97,000. Those are tremendous differences. So no matter where you are, what age you are, now is the time to start. Where is the best place to put this money? All of you should first start with your retirement plans at work. Maybe you have a 401k. Maybe you have a 403b. Or if you don't, maybe you have an IRA or a KEO or a SEP IRA. But all of you should be putting the maximum amount that you're allowed to into those retirement plans. You know, there's another law when it comes to money. And that law is this, that the more you make, the more you spend. Isn't it true? Years ago, I used to think I could get around on $5,000 a year, because I used to. Then I start making 20, and I couldn't quite make it. Then I made 40, then I made 100, and I still didn't make it. What was going on? It's not about making more. It's about keeping more of what you already make. And one of the best ways to do so is use these retirement plans, because if you don't bring home that money, you have the money taken out of your check before you ever see it, you're not going to spend it and you're going to have it. You know, in these last two steps, we've learned how to be responsible to those we love by creating a revocable living trust or a will. We looked at long-term care insurance and a durable power of attorney. We've learned how to be respectful to ourselves, how to attract money to us. We learned about dealing with our credit card debt and how to save for retirement. When we come back, we're going to learn about a way to invest your money that takes out the fear of it. And we're going to learn who is the absolute single most important person to trust when it comes to investing your money. Step 6, I have to tell you, is probably one of my favorite steps of all. Trusting yourself more than you trust others. Interesting concept when it comes to money, isn't it? Each and every one of us has this little voice. It resides right around here. It's not a little voice. This is a huge voice. And if we listen to this voice, it will keep us out of trouble, especially when it comes to our money. Have you ever found that to be true? You see, most of us want to look for somebody else to tell us what to do with our money. We want to have somebody take care of us and our money rather than us take care of ourselves. But what's very strange about this is that most of us check our oil in our car more than we check the investment return that our financial advisors have been getting for us. Whenever I ask my clients that come to see me, new clients, well, what did your old advisor get for you in the past 5 years? They go, I don't have a clue. So this is what I want you to know. As an advisor on Wall Street, what I learned was that you will never be powerful in life until you are powerful over your own money. You know, when I first became a stockbroker, I was the only game in town. You didn't have a choice. You wanted to buy stocks, you had to buy it from somebody like me and pay full commissions on it. You wanted to buy mutual funds, you had to buy it from somebody like me and pay a 5% commission. There were only 300 mutual funds when I first became a broker. Do you know that there are over 8,000 mutual funds today, most of them without any commissions on them whatsoever? The question you have to ask yourself is, the industry has changed, but have you? Are you keeping up with the times? Now again, a lot of you may say, but you know, Susie, I hear you say this, I know I should be doing it myself, but I'm afraid. I don't want to mess up. Let me show you a technique of how to get your feet wet, of how to take the fear out of this. All right? You know, most times when people invest money, They usually just take it and they invest it all at once. That's called a lump sum purchase. There is another way to invest money, and that's called dollar cost averaging. And I'm going to compare the two for you right now. Let's say that you had $1,200 that you wanted to invest, and you were going to do it like most people do, in one lump sum. Great. If you took that $1,200 and let's say you bought a mutual fund with it that's trading at about $10 a share, you would be able to purchase 120 shares, correct? But let's say 1 year later, everything's gone bad. This mutual fund falls to $5 a share. Now what's happened is you've lost half your money. You still have 120 shares, and at $5 a share, it's only worth $600. That's how most people invest, and that's what happens. Let me show you another way you could have done it. Let's say you took this $1,200, and rather than putting it in all at once, you took it and took $200, and in January, invested this money. Mutual fund is at $10 a share, so now you were able to buy 20 shares. Let's say 2 months later, you took another $200. Mutual fund is starting to fall, but notice you're able to buy more shares because it's costing less. Over the year, as the price of this mutual fund falls, do you notice that you're buying more and more shares? It still ends up at $5 a share. That we can't prevent. The difference is rather than 120 shares in the first example, you now have 208 shares. And 208 shares at $5 a share equals $1,040. You've hardly lost any money at all. There's a tremendous difference between the two. Let's compare that. Lump sum, you buy 120 shares, it's worth now $600. Dollar cost averaging, you buy 208 shares, it's worth $1,040. But here's the real clincher. So let's say after you've done this, you decide, you know what, I'm not investing anymore in either circumstance. I don't care about dollar cost averaging. I don't care about lump sum purchases. I bought something that went from 10 to 5, and I'm not doing it anymore. So you take a year off and you decide, this isn't for me. But over that next year, the mutual fund starts to go up. And it goes back up again to $10 a share. In the lump sum approach, you still have 120 shares, don't you? So great, you got your money back, there it is, and you're as happy as can be. However, if you had dollar cost averaged, where you had 208 shares, now you have $2,080. That's a 60% gain over where you started. Do you see the difference here? This is a way to benefit when the market goes down, to profit more when the market goes up, and in times like we've been having with all these fluctuations, this is a way for you to enter the market without a lot of risk and a lot of fear. Next question you may have is, all right, but I don't know which mutual fund to buy, or what do I put my money into? There is so much information at your fingertips today, I can't even begin to tell you. America Online, the internet, Morningstar, which rates mutual funds. It's a publication that you can get at your library. Financial books, financial newsletters. It is all out there. And when you start taking these steps towards your money, you start to feel powerful because you're in control. And when you feel powerful, what happens? Power attracts money to you. In the next step, we're going to make sure, though, now that we're attracting money, are we sure that we're attracting all that is meant to come our way? Wouldn't it be nice if all of us could receive more money? Wouldn't you like some more? I don't know one person who doesn't. However, what are you doing to prevent that from happening? And this is the answer to that question. Most of us go through life clutching on to the little amount of money that we have so tightly that our hands literally aren't open to receive that which is to come our way. And you know, it's our natural tendency to clutch. We did it from the day we were born, didn't we? We clutched Mama or Daddy's finger, and we're still clutching. Think about it. If your hands were like this, and you were as thirsty as could be, couldn't find any glasses in the house, and you go into your kitchen and somehow manage to turn on the water, how much water would you be able to drink with your hands like this? Not very much. But if your hands were open, you then would truly be able to quench your thirst. Okay? So there's only one way that I have found to force the opening of the hands, and that's by giving money away on a regular basis. Now, I'm not talking about here giving to get money. That's not how it works. I'm talking about giving to say thank you as a true offering. Thank you for that which we have, and thank you for that which we don't have as well. You see, when you feel generous because you have enough money to give away, you feel powerful. And when you feel powerful, once again, money is attracted to you. How much do I think you should give away? The amount that feels respectful to you. The amount that that little voice that you have inside of here tells you. For some of you, it might be $1 a month. For some of you, it might be $5, $50, or $10,000. But you will know what that amount is, and it has to be a respectful amount to you. Not to impress anybody, but to you. How often do I want you to give that away? Every single month on a regular basis. In fact, I think it should be the very first check that you write at the beginning of the month. Because if your hands are opened at the beginning of the month, you have 30 days to follow to let more money flow in. Now, the next question I have to tell you is a very interesting one. To whom should you give that money? Where should it go? A lot of you are going to have friends who need money, and you're going to say, all right, I'll give Jane $100 every month. Or maybe you have children who have a lot of credit card debt and you want to help them out, so you give them money every month. I'm telling you this right now, if you give money to a person, it's going to render you powerless rather than powerful. Why? Because 9 out of 10 times that person is not going to do with that money that which you think they should do. You're going to buy a computer for your children, and they're going to end up buying it and using it for 3 months. And then they're never going to use it again, and you're going to be aggravated at them. Or whoever you gave money to pay off their credit card, and 4 months later they're taking a vacation, you're going to go, well, wait a minute, what happened to the money I gave them? So there's attachments to it. I do want to say there's only one person or people that it's okay to give money to, and that's to your parents. We owe our parents a debt, truthfully, for having given us birth on some level here. And you never feel powerless when you give mom and dad money. You feel grateful to be able to do so. So in all the years, I've never found anybody regretting giving money to mom and dad. If you do so, though, I want you to do it in a humble way, because sometimes it's very hard for mom and dad to take money from their kids. But then it's okay. The places I do want you to give money to are this. I want you to find a fabulous nonprofit organization of your choice, or a place of worship that you truly believe in. You know, it's kind of this is what I'm looking for, this kind of a feeling. You go into a place of worship. Do you ever remember doing this? You drop $1 in the donation box and you light the candle. And you stand there. And do you remember the serenity that you felt for that 1 minute that you were standing there, that peacefulness? When you feel like that, you feel generous. And when you feel generous, you feel powerful. And when you feel powerful, I can't say it enough, money will come your way. However, it's true, more money will come your way, but money has a mind of its own sometimes. And in the next step, we're going to learn about the ups and downs of the money cycle. In life, sometimes things just seem to go wrong, don't they? Maybe you lose your job. And then you lose your job, you don't have any money coming in, can't pay the bills, you get into debt, and everything starts to fall apart. However, if you can simply have faith that everything happens for the best, if you can see today's events with future vision, then you'll know you'll be able to be powerful when these things happen. It's kind of like if you think about this. Do you remember at one time in your life you were totally in love with somebody, head over heels about this person, and they left you? And there you were. You cried for months, didn't you? You were just devastated. In fact, probably the only good thing that came out of it was that you lost some weight. Right? And then 4 years pass, or a number of years pass, and you think back on it and you go, how nuts was I? I didn't even like that person. The same can be true with your money. Things happen, and you need to be able to see it in the future rather than the effect it has on you today. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, great, Susie's standing up there, a successful financial advisor, and she's telling us if I'm about to go bankrupt, I've just lost my job, to feel happy about it. Right? That seems to make a lot of sense. What qualifies her to be able to say that? Well, I'll tell you what qualifies me. 10, 11 years ago, I walked into my office where I have an entire financial planning firm, and a very trusted associate totally wiped me clean of every single penny I had. To say I was penniless at that moment was putting it mildly, because, we had legal fees and things to fight that afterwards. However, I wouldn't change that event for all the money in the world. And let me tell you why. For years, I identified myself by my money. I identified myself by my Cartier watch, by my BMW, by my designer clothes, and the kind of home that I lived in. That's what I thought made me important. I probably would have thought that for the rest of my life if this hadn't happened. And I would have been missing out on the most important thing in life, which is I was more than my money. I defined my money didn't define me. And it actually made me a better financial advisor, I have to tell you. It gave me compassion for people, to see them as a whole and help develop these steps. So what I want all of you to do right now is I want you to think of a time when something in your life seriously went wrong in your eyes. And today, sitting here, I want you to think about that. How did it help you? Did it give you more courage? Did it give you more strength, more stamina? And in the future, when something goes wrong financially with you, I want you to think back to this exercise. And I want you to remember what we did here. And most of all, I want you to have faith that everything really does happen for the best. Over this past hour, we've taken a very brief journey into the 9 steps to financial freedom. We've gone back to our first memories of money. We've looked at some of our fears. We've learned how to create new truths to silence those fears. We've learned how to get honest with ourselves, be responsible to those we love, and be respectful of what money can and can't do. We've learned how to stay open to receive all that we're meant to have, and how to trust ourselves more than we trust others. And we've learned how to have faith that everything really does happen for the best. But I have to tell you what's so ironic about all these steps is that in the end, when we leave this world, there's not one of us that's going to leave with a penny. We're all going to be leaving empty-handed. Now, I can promise you there is not one person in this room or who's watching this who's going to be wishing that they had bought IBM when it was at 40, or this little red convertible that they had always wanted, that Mercedes, while they're lying on their deathbed. That is not what you're going to be thinking about. So it's important that we learn what true financial freedom is right now before we're there. You have to understand that true financial freedom is when you realize and you understand that your self-worth is far, far greater than your net worth. That you are perfect with or without money. You are perfect regardless of the car you drive, the schools you send your children to, the clothes you wear, your job title, or the homes that you happen to live in. You know, I'm not going to stand up here and profess to all of you that I know the meaning of life, because I don't. But I can tell you I know an awful lot about money, what it can do and what it can't do. And each and every one of you could know about money as well if you believed in yourselves that you had the ability to do so. If you would simply treat money as a cherished friend, as a living entity, which it is, and bring it closer to you, rather than pushing it away and not wanting to deal with it. If you were to do that, then your money would take care of you for years to come and live on long after you've gone to take care of the generations of those that you love. May financial freedom bless each and every one of your doorsteps, and I wish you all abundance, joy, and true wealth of all kinds. Thank you for taking these steps with me.
And now, please stay tuned for a special question and answer session with Suze Orman.
The 9 Steps to Financial Freedom with Suze Orman is made possible by T. Rowe Price Associates, an investment management firm providing mutual funds, brokerage services, and retirement plan services. T. Rowe Price, invest with confidence. T. Rowe Price Investment Services, Incorporated. Additional funding is provided by annual financial support of viewers like you.
So here's your chance now. You get to ask any and every question you'd ever want to know, and I'll hopefully be able to answer it for you. So limit it to nothing. You want to know, now is your time to ask. Anybody have a question? Here's one over here.
How do you pick a good financial advisor?
That's a good question. The best place to find one is looking in the mirror. And I'm very serious. My whole goal of everything I do is to make people like you as independent from people like me as possible. When you're dealing with a financial advisor, you have to ask some very serious questions to begin with. And the first question you have to ask is, how do they make their money? If they make their money based on commissions, on sales, you have to really think twice if that advisor has your best interest at heart or theirs. You know, just a very quick story. When I was first hired as a stockbroker back in 1980, they sat me for 6 weeks in a cold calling class. I had to call about 100 people a day. And I learned how to get people like you to say yes to me when I would call you and ask you to buy something. Give you an instance. Rather than saying to you, do you want to buy 100 shares of IBM? I would say to you, do you want to buy 100 or 500 shares of IBM? You see, in the first example, you could say no to me, and then what was I going to say? In the second example, you didn't have a yes or no answer. I had you. I was a professionally trained salesperson. So more than any recommendation, because I tell you, you may have word of mouth from some of these people that say, this person is fabulous. Well, I have to tell you something else. You'd have to be a real loony to have not done well in this market over the past 10 years. So the people that are giving you advice and saying, my stockbroker did fabulous for me, how do they know? You know, everything did fabulous. You need a good advisor, if you're going to have one at all, who does as well in down markets as they do in up markets, and nobody even has those returns anymore. It'll be very fascinating for you to all watch now what happens with these mutual funds and their 10-year average return now that October of 1987 is off the charts. You see, a lot of these funds just date back 10 years. And now 10 years is not going to include the stock market debacle of that time. So you can't just go on returns. You can't just go on reputation of what other people tell you, because most of them don't even know. If you want to be powerful, I'm telling you, you can do it yourself. When you continuously look outside for financial advice, you're at somebody else's mercy. Now, if you have large sums of money, then that can start to be another case. Then you look for what I call an investment advisor. Somebody who manages your money for a fee. That's very different than a fee-based financial advisor where you go to somebody and they say, I'll charge you $300 and give you a financial plan. Great. What are you going to do with a financial plan? It'll sit and you'll never take action on it. An investment advisor takes your money. Maybe they charge you 1% a year of the amount that you gave them with no commissions. And this is why it's a good thing to do. Let's say you give them $100,000 and their fee is 1%. Great, they're getting $1,000 a year to manage your money. If they take that $100,000 to $200,000, now they're getting 1% of $200,000 or $2,000 a year. If they take it from 100 to 50, now they're only getting $500 a year. They're on the same side of the fence as you are. They make money for you, they make money for themselves. So, and don't be fooled, by the way, by going to a brokerage firm and they go, oh, I can do that for you. We have what's called a wrap account. We wrap our commissions and we do all of this in one thing. Yeah, they're paying the broker to pay them commissions. They're paying the advisor and they're taking their cut. So if you use an investment advisor and you're paying more than 1.5%, I think you're paying too much and go to find somebody else. Look on your own, look within, use the sources like the internet, American Online, read books. And I have to tell you, start little by little and you'll be the best financial advisor around.
Thank you.
My question has to deal with the Roth IRA.
Yes.
Can you explain the benefits of those?
I can. In 1998, we're going to be given the option of either keeping or having a regular IRA, which is an individual retirement account, which allows you to put $2,000 a year into it. And when you put this $2,000 in, you get to take that $2,000 off of your taxable income. So if you're in the 50% tax bracket, that will save you $1,000 on your taxes. As the years go on, that money will grow for you tax deferred. When you go to take that money out, though, you will pay ordinary income tax on it. Now, this is a regular IRA I'm first explaining. After you pay regular income tax on it, how much will you have left? It will depend on your income tax bracket at the time that you're taking this money out, number one. Number two, with a regular IRA, you cannot touch that money before you are 59 and a half years of age, or if you do so, you're going to pay a 10% penalty to the federal government. By the age of 70 and a half, if you haven't needed the money up until then, you have to start taking money out. That's how a regular IRA works. Let me tell you about the new Roth IRA. The Roth IRA allows you to put $2,000 in. However, you don't get a tax write-off for it. So that $1,000 maybe that it was saving you on taxes, here you don't get that. You get to simply put your money in. However, it grows all these years. When you go to take it out, you could take it out tax-free. There are no taxes on it when you withdraw it. Also, you don't have to take it out when you're 70 and a half. You can let it keep growing and growing and growing. And if you need money prior to the age of 59 and a half, you can take out your original contributions without any penalty. Any growth that those contributions have received has to stay in there for at least 5 years, and again have to be 59 and a half. But you can have access to some of your original money without penalty. So it will depend for you which is the best way to go. Are you in a high tax bracket now and expect to be in a very low tax bracket when you retire, so that that $1,000 benefit or whatever that write-off would be on your IRA, a regular one, you could take that money, invest it, and do things like that with it? Or are you in a very low tax bracket right now where the write-off really doesn't mean a lot for you in a regular IRA? So as time goes on, maybe you're better off doing a Roth IRA because the regular IRA isn't helping you that much anyway. And then in the future, you may be in a higher income tax bracket, and then the Roth will pay off. And I can tell you, I've compared it most ways. I like the Roth. That's the way I would go, because most people don't want to be at the mercy of what the government is going to say, what their tax bracket's going to be 20 or 30 or 40 years from now. I would want to know that what I have is mine, and I don't have to worry about it. Here's another thing I want you to think about. In a regular IRA, when you die, it's going to pass down to your children. Your children have essentially 5 years to wipe that clean, and they're going to pay ordinary income tax on it as well. In a Roth IRA, and this is still being cleared up in legislation, there's controversy about this, but in a Roth IRA, it's very possible that that money will pass down to your children tax-free as well. And given the state of the economy and things happening, a lot of you may have that desire to truly want to take care of your kids that way by leaving them money without having to worry about it. But there's also the possibility that you have of taking your IRAs that you already have and converting them to a Roth IRA. And what you need to know is if you do that, when you take the money out, the government isn't going to charge you a 10% penalty if you're under the age of 59 and a half, but you will pay ordinary income tax on the amount of money you're withdrawing. And if you do it in 1998, you have 4 years to pay that tax. And so now you've taken your money out from here, it's now in the Roth IRA, and then it will continue to grow tax-free. If you have a lot of money in your IRAs, and you're in a high tax bracket, it's not worth doing the conversion. If you're just starting out and you have a few $1,000s in there, then it's worth converting to a Roth IRA. But that's essentially how they work. It's named after Senator Roth, by the way, and it takes effect in 1998. Anybody else? Right here.
I'm very interested in REITs, real estate investment trusts. Can you give me any information?
I can. I have to tell you, real estate investment trusts are simply, in essence, a mutual fund that gathers all kinds of real estate properties in it. So rather than you buying a real estate limited partnership or real estate on its own, it's a way for you to invest in the real estate market. It's known as REITs. REITs have been fabulous as of late. Last year they had a wonderful run-up. They're still going well today. Most REITs pay a very nice interest rate. If you find a good one, it could be 5 or 6%. So if you're looking for income along with moderate growth, not aggressive growth, but where your money will just chug along, REITs can be a fabulous way to go. I'm still myself looking into a few and looking at them. I can also tell you just briefly, there are all kinds of REITs, and there are ones out there now that specifically invest in golf courses. So everything that they own is a golf course. Think about the baby boomer generation. We're starting to mature, we're starting to get up there. Golf courses might be something you want to look into as far as a REIT goes.
Thank you.
What about real estate improvements, like home improvements, assuming that the neighborhood can support the appreciation in the house value and those type of things? What are your thoughts on that?
I have to tell you, very seldom when you invest in your own real estate, in your own home with improvements, will you get the growth out of it that you're looking for. Investments in the home shouldn't be looked at as a retirement plan. They should be looked at as a comfort zone for yourself. That's how you want to live. So don't mix up improving a home that you live in with taking money that you're investing for your future years to come. They're very, very separate things, because you see, When you invest in a home, you've improved it. Let's say you live there 20 years, and you totally wear out your new improvements. And before you know it, 20 years from now, everything that you designed is out of date. So really, that money could be very well thrown out. And I know very few people who are able to truly do an improvement on their home and not go over budget by at least 2 or 3 times. When you invest in the stock market or in bonds or whatever it may be, you have $20,000, you invest it, that's it. You may have less, you may have more, but it's because of the movement, not because it's costing you something. Do you see? So I wouldn't mix those two up. If you're looking to invest for your future, don't consider the money you're putting into your home in that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, we have one over here.
I work for a company that has an excellent 401k plan, and I've acquired a lot of company stock over a number of years. And I have a lot of trust and I have a lot of value in that stock. And I'm wondering if it's a good idea to hang on to it, or should I be distributing that stock over some other mechanisms?
No. So it will depend. There are many companies, all your eggs are in this one stock.
Yes.
I have to tell you, I don't care how fabulous that stock is. I can't tell you how much risk you're taking. Think about IBM. Let's say the company that you worked for was IBM years ago. IBM was in the hundreds. IBM then was 80. IBM was then 60. IBM was then 40. The people who needed their money right then and there for retirement started to get so nervous that they sold out. Now, of course, IBM has come back, but there's never a guarantee that it would have, or that the stock that you're talking about will. So you need to diversify. It can be a fabulous stock. Everything can be going right, but I've seen many fabulous stocks, before you know it, be off the charts, gone. And you don't want to do that at this time in your life. How old are you?
I'm 45.
Now, at 45, I mean, even though you have a good 20 years left to go, I truly would be diversifying. Because if you were in your 20s, I'd say, all right, take a risk for now. But into your 40s now, entering your 50s, diversification needs to be there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Besides bank savings accounts, the equity markets, the bond market, or real estate, is there any other investment vehicles you could recommend?
You see, I'd be very hard-pressed to recommend something just because it's out there. Whenever you get a recommendation from a financial advisor, more than the investments that they know about, what they need to know about is you. And if you're married, and your wife's comfort level or your partner's comfort level. Because how you feel about an investment, seriously, if you feel strong about it, has a lot to do with how much you make on it. Now, what do I mean by that? If I tell you to do something, and I say buy a stock, and you go, okay, and you're not secure about it, as soon as that stock goes down just a little, or maybe a lot, you're out of it. You know, you would have been out of IBM when it went from 80 to 60 because you would have been afraid, because you were afraid to begin with. And then you would have missed out when it went all the way back up into the hundreds. So I'm very hesitant to recommend or to even talk about other kinds of investments. And this is something you should all be listening to, because that's how your advisor should approach you. Rather than just as a salesperson that says, oh, we have stocks, we have bonds, we have real estate, we have this, we have that. They should say, what's your comfort level? I call it the emotion quotient. How do you feel about investing? Will you get afraid if the market starts to go down? But another way to answer your questions, just to give you a little bit more broader things, when you're talking about stocks, you have international markets, emerging markets, you have mutual funds, individual stocks, you have the options market, you have the commodities market, then you have precious metals, then you have bonds, corporate bonds, municipal bonds, government bonds, treasury bonds. So within all the areas that you just named, such as real estate, you have REITs, limited partnership, personal, real estate, apartments, income property. Within each of the areas that you just named, there is a variety of other types of investments. So you listed the main categories, but if you branched out within those categories, they would go on forever. So the truth is, you don't have to look much further than the areas you already know. Just look deeper into those areas.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Please stay tuned for some additional thoughts from Suze Orman on Found Money, in which she explains how you can create extra money in your everyday life.
Have you ever noticed that you're walking down the street, you see a quarter, what do? Pick it up or let it sit there? Pick it up, don't you? Well, if you bend down to pick up that quarter, why is it that you leave all other kinds of money on the table that you don't even know about? There are all kinds of ways for you to find money within your own money that you already have that you're just leaving set there. Let me give you a few examples. How many of you get a tax refund? And aren't you happy to get this tax refund at the end of the year? Well, here's the clue. Would any of you give me an interest-free loan for 1 year? Would you? No. Well, if you're not willing to give it to me, why are you willing to give it to the IRS? When you get a tax refund, you have essentially given the IRS an interest-free loan for 1 year. It's an interesting thing if you think about it. So, none of you should be getting a tax refund. You should all be figuring out exactly how much do you owe, and if they have to take it out of your paychecks, great, schedule it so at the end of the year you don't owe any, but you don't get any back as well. For those of you who are self-employed, it's very important to pay taxes quarterly rather than monthly. Don't keep doing that. Or let's say you're retired, for instance. Don't have them take the money out of your paycheck or out of your pension check, because again, you're not making interest on that money. You only have to pay taxes if you're not employed by somebody else. So again, if you're retired or self-employed, quarterly. So once every 3 months, you have to send in a check to the IRS. But that money is sitting in your account making interest for you rather than them. Now, we're all driving around and we all think we're doing great in the driver's seat, don't you? And you pull into these gas stations, and how many of you don't want to get your little hands dirty? And we go to full serve rather than self-serve. Do you know that the difference between full serve and self-serve is about 18 cents a gallon to 25 cents a gallon? But do you know that if you used self-serve for the next 40 years, do you know that if you had taken the difference between what it would cost you for full serve and had invested it at 8%, do you know that you would have had saved $42,000? It's a little bit more than a quarter, isn't it? Right? How about calling cards? Don't have change in your pocket, go into the payphone, dial up, bump, 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 push all the numbers. It's about 75 cents to use that. Instead of using your calling card once a day, if you were to take that money, invest it, and let's say all you got was an 8% return for it, do you know over the next 40 years that that would add up to $75,000? That's a lot of money. Another way that you can find money is don't have your mortgage company withhold your property taxes or your insurance for you. Now they say, we'll give you a mortgage, but we need to have this escrow account where all that money has to go in. Again, they're not paying you interest on this money. So don't let them hold it. You should be taking this money and putting it in an account for you. You earn the interest. And then when the time comes to pay your property taxes, you write the check and you keep the interest. So don't let these mortgage companies talk you into that. Also, when you do go to invest, let's say you don't want to invest on your own and you want to use an investment advisor or a broker. Look around. Don't necessarily pay full commissions. Do you know that even though you're using a full-service broker, that you can negotiate with that person? Rather than 40 cents a share or $1 a share, whatever they're charging you to buy stock, if you said to them, guess what? I only want to pay you 10 or 15 cents a share, they'd probably say, okay. So think about that. Negotiate with them because they will do so. Also, if you're going to invest in a mutual fund, especially if you're using a broker, you have to ask them, why do I need to pay you a 5% commission to buy this mutual fund when I could buy a no-load mutual fund, one that I don't pay any commissions on to begin with? Do you understand that the role of the broker is to make you broker? On some level. But seriously, do you understand that when a financial advisor sells you a mutual fund and they get that 5%, they have nothing to do with that investment from that point on? It is the portfolio manager within the mutual fund is the one who is buying and selling everything, not the advisor. So if you buy a loaded mutual fund, one with a commission, you are already 5% down before you even started. It has to go up 5% in value just for you to break even. So look into some good no-load mutual funds, one without a commission, and you'll be far ahead of the game. A lot of you, especially as you're getting older and maybe, nearing retirement, you might want to try to speed up your mortgage. A lot of you may have a 30-year mortgage, and you may find, depending on your tax situation, that it can save you considerable sum of money paying it off in 15 years rather than in 30. Now, I'm not talking about getting rid of your 30-year mortgage and going to get a 15-year mortgage. What I'm telling you to do is call up your mortgage company and ask them, how much do you have to pay starting this month in order to have that mortgage paid off in 15 years? They will tell you. If you start doing that, it could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest rate. Now, a lot of you want to pay off your mortgage in 15 years, but you decide, oh, what if I can't do it? So you apply for a 30-year mortgage as a cushion, and then you pay it off in 15 years anyway. Do you know that a 30-year mortgage will charge you more interest for that mortgage than a 15-year? So rather than, let's say, a 15-year you could get at 7.5% interest, a 30-year might be at 7 3/4. So don't apply for the 30-year mortgage. Don't give yourself that cushion. Have more faith in yourself that you can do it, and take advantage of that lower interest rate. I have to tell you, if you don't care about how you spend your own money, nobody else will. And not only can you find more money within yourself, but you truly will find a sense of security that can go on and on and on. Let your money take care of you as hard as you work to take care of it. Thanks.